just had to give you guys a taste as a little intro, you know, some boots and cats. This is my first afternoon weekday stream. I'm doing this pretty much for any subscribers who wanted to tune in that are from the UK or just the opposite side of the world who have had a really hard time getting to any of the live streams in the past, or have stayed up till 2 a.m. to watch. That is dedication, but I don't want to do that to you. So, hello, hello. So Melody says that sounded like Goa trance. Yeah, maybe. It could be. I'll make a disclaimer at some point, but I don't really know exactly what genres or subgenres any of this music is. I feel fairly confident calling it trance because I was very inspired by all these trance compilations I had that I picked up when I visited London when I was 15. And, you know, I definitely kind of modeled a lot of my music after that. But I also had like a ton of psychedelic trance compilations. Sorry, I got distracted for a moment. And that was also extremely influential. So tell me more about you guys while we wait for a few other folks to join. Did you listen to trance? Do you still listen to trance? Did you go to raves? Are you not really into trance, but you're more here because you're curious to hear the music that I wrote when I was a youngster and sort of the progress there? Or are you just curious? So Melody asked, I remember you said that these will be in chronological order. Is that preview the oldest? No, that was just a little taste. I couldn't start with the very first one because then everyone would leave. That was, so that little sample, I'll play the whole thing when we get there, but that sample at the beginning was called Mystery in a Box. It's actually a remix of a track called Mystery in a Box by John Q. Publik. And I'll play the original a little bit as well. But I wrote that Mystery in a Box, I'm pretty sure, in 2001 or 2002. But it was sort of like my second phase of production. So not the earliest stuff. Okay. Hello, Dave Bloodstream. Hello, hello. Cubehead Bingo. I don't know what that means, but right on. Hey, Beguile. Beguile loves trance and is looking forward to this. Fantastic. Dave Bloodstream went to Psytrance raves. Oh, man. That's awesome. And Melody used to write trance style stuff too. These days it's the same, just far more down tempo. Yeah, same thing happened to me. I kind of slowed things down as the years went on. I wonder why that is. And Thomas says, I went through a brief phase way back in high school, but I generally like it. Yeah. Cubehead, it means I'm curious. Okay. Curious about my early music. Yep. Yeah, this is, this will be fun. I'm going to share stuff from, you know, that I normally wouldn't share. Because I think it's important to kind of see like people's, I don't know, their works in progress or like where they came from, and that can be just as inspiring, I think, as like their polished stuff. Melody's going to join the Patreon. Yay! Oh, I'm so excited. Swine Tier is fun. You might want to start at the first of the month, though, because you'll get charged again on July 1st, just so you know. It's up to you. Cubehead, I'm not a trancer. I've never heard that word before, trancer. But I love early works in any art. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see someone's progress. It's always educational. Interrupt. I'm really interested in the software that you used back in the day. Yeah, I mean, I have a screenshot of like the software that I used at the very beginning. And then I've still got the DAW that I started to use a lot more like my second year So I can kind of show behind the scenes of that, but I no longer have my original. It wasn't even a DAW. I'll talk about it in a second, but I started with Techno eJay, and then I got Acid Pro, and then around the same time I think Ibiza eJay came out, and then I switched to Reason. So, and Melody also used Reason. Awesome. Hey Darius. Cool. So I thought, yeah, I could give sort of a brief background of like my musical, I guess, journey, and like how I ended up doing trance, and how that sort of, I guess it kind of ended. I did it for a couple of years and then kind of moved on to different genres. But I did want to ask, oh yeah, Kieran says he used eJay. Awesome. I'll definitely want to find out if anybody else has used the eJay software, especially because the loops are all the same. So you might recognize loops that you put in your own songs. And feel free to ask questions as well. Like, questions are fine, always welcome. If we're listening to something, I might not be able to get to it right away, but I'll get to it when I can. So I started writing music when I was like 5, I would say, on the piano. And then, and that continued. I had a keyboard and a tape recorder, and I'll play you a very short snippet of what that sounded like. And then I moved on to, like trance. And that was the first time I ever produced electronic music. Up until then, I was just writing piano solos and sometimes piano with vocals. Was never a very good lyricist, though. So, I did my best, but I never, ever did anything with that music. And then after, so then I moved on to trance. And it was because I had started to listen to trance. And I can't even remember how that happened, but I do remember a big change happening when I visited Europe with my family in 2001. I was 15, and we went into this record store, and my parents let me buy like these stacks of compilations, and I must have already heard trance because I bought a ton of trance compilations. So I don't really even know how I got into it, but I just really loved the rhythmic grid of trance. I never have been to a rave. Well, that's not true. I went to a rave as an adult at one point, but I never went to a rave when I was writing trance music, and I never even was exposed to the club scene at that point. I just liked the way it sounded. I didn't even write trance to be danced to. So you'll probably hear that, like the builds and the sustaining of the builds doesn't last long enough to be like probably something in a club. I don't know, but I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just writing something that I enjoyed listening to because I just listened to trance in the car. I listened to it on my stereo. I didn't dance to it. I just thought it was so cool. I loved like at that time it was called psychedelic trance. It wasn't psytrance. That's like a newer thing. Maybe it's the same genre, but they finally like squished the names together. So I was listening to tons of psychedelic trance and like Infected Mushroom, Electric Universe, Juno Reactor. Those were like my top 3. And then I was listening to all this melodic trance and progressive trance. So I would say those are the 3 genres that I was into and that I ended up writing in. And Cubehead says, yeah, always make the music you want to hear. Exactly. Yeah. I just thought that trance was so powerful. I thought it was so like epic, anthemic. Psychedelic trance sounded evil. I didn't do drugs. I just loved how messed up it sounded. And most psychedelic trance uses the Phrygian or Phrygian dominant scales, which has that flat 2. I don't know if you can hear my keyboard, but so just kind of exotic sounds. And anyway, yeah, and then I like kind of realized that what I really wanted to do next was to write like stuff that had a slower groove. So I kind of moved away from trance and into down tempo and side EM, I guess. And then I went to college and I switched over almost exclusively to down tempo and contemporary classical arrangements for like mixed ensembles, and it was performed live and stuff like that. So I have all those too. We could play that later. Another stream maybe. And then I got really burned out, and I didn't do much music for 10 years. And yeah. And then a few years ago I got back into it. Started drumming. I lived in a musical household and kind of was like, oh gosh, how could I lose touch with my musician self? And so that's all been coming back and getting back into the piano and everything. So sort of the quick rundown of how this all happened. My dad is largely responsible for enabling me in being able to produce all this music, because he bought me the MIDI controller. He bought me all the software. He researched everything. He was very dedicated, and I'm really grateful that I had him kind of rooting for me and nerding out with me about music. My mom was a musician too, so that was she was a huge inspiration. She was a piano player, singer-songwriter, never learned how to read music, but she didn't need to. She was totally a genius. Goa, Melody mentioned Goa. I feel like I had one CD that was listed as Goa, but I never really knew what that meant. It sounded very similar to psychedelic trance. So let me Cubehead asked who my favorite drummer. I really love Abe Cunningham from the Deftones. Those slow, grungy grooves just get to me. He's so consistent, and I admire Danny Carey very much. He's a genius, but I'm more familiar with like Deftones. And the drum, I actually don't know the drummer's name in Disturbed, but he blows my mind. Okay, well, unless there are any other like kind of intro questions, I'm going to play you just like a minute of this recording that I have from 1993. So I was 8. And I made this tape for my dad because I decided I was going to make an album of piano music, just like my mom. And so you can just hear like the beginnings of Ixie. So 8-year-old Ixie playing the piano. Here we go.
Downtown.
Hey Trey. Melody and I are the same age. Cool.
The name? Roaming Shadows.
This is Roaming Shadows.
The name? Children's Blues. The name used to be Red Balloon, but now is not.
Children's Blues, y'all. After this one, I'm going to play one more because it sounds like a trance precursor. Yes, Melody. Okay.
The name? Rushing Stars.
Rushing Stars.
It might be a little tricky and I might mess up a lot, but it's really hard and fast. That's why. You know.
I love how kids they mess up and they just keep going. Like I would mess up all the time, and either I would just keep going or I would incorporate my mistake and make it a new thing and then pretend that I meant to do that. It's just so great. Like there's just no judgment. I miss those days so much. Anyway, so that's 8-year-old Ixie. And I had like a cassette tape recorder, and I would put it just like next to the speaker on the... So Dave says, it must have blown my mind when I discovered arpeggiators. Yeah, it's funny. I actually don't use them very often. I did get into sequencers, but I very rarely have used an arpeggiator. I would do the arpeggio myself. I would just like, maybe it's just the piano background. Like I would just want to figure it out and play it myself or something. But I would definitely use them more now because really cool stuff happens with them. All right. So let's start. So I'm going to show you a picture of a Techno eJay. Okay. So this is the first software that I use to make trance. And you can kind of see on the left, there's like tracks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think you could have up to 18 tracks. And then this axis is time. And I guess I would set the tempo somewhere, and I don't know if they were on the same key or if they were grouped into keys, or I don't remember. But on the bottom, you can see sort of a bank of loops. And so I would go through and I would find drum loops and bass line loops and synth loops and chords and effects and everything. And then I would just arrange them in this grid. So my first trance music, none of it was original samples. It was all samples. And it was only me arranging it. But that was a really interesting way to start because I didn't have to think about making original music at the moment. I could just focus on how to use the software and how to arrange and how to layer. So I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, but that's what ended up happening, is that I got pretty good at arranging before I ended up moving on to a stage where I was, writing my own stuff. Now, of course, I've been writing my own stuff since I was 5, so it wasn't like that was super intimidating. And in fact, it was kind of frustrating that I couldn't write my own stuff. But also, it was so great to have this bank of like really good sounding samples that I could just, try different things and move around, and everything sounded, compressed properly. I didn't have to mix anything. It was just like, it definitely made it easy for me to bang out some pretty cool, like at the time, tracks without having to know about mixing and without having to, understand the software intimately. So this is what it looked like. Now, what I kind of want to, if I go chronologically, then really the first track I need to play is one where I didn't use any of my own stuff. Techno eJay had a very, very rudimentary sequencer, and it was so limited. And I tried at some point, and I'll play you some of that, to use it to make my own bass lines and my own synth lines and some of my own drums. But oh boy, it did not sound good. So I'm going to start chronologically, which means I'm going to start with a song called Night of No Regrets. I'm probably not going to play all of the songs at first because I tended to go on for a very long time, and we just don't have the time to spend listening to a 15-year-old making 6-minute trance tracks. So I'm just going to play a sample of this so you can get the idea. And I would say it sounds pretty decent because, again, none of this was my original composition. It was only my arrangement. So here we go. So that goes on for another 3 minutes. No, 4 minutes. But yeah, I mean that's not bad. You know, it definitely sounds a little immature. You know, lots of ideas happening, but it's got enough of a consistent thing going on. You know, it's fairly well balanced. I already had, you know, a good sense of like chord progressions and stuff. One thing I noticed though is that I didn't really think about bass lines. So that song didn't exactly have a very strong bass line. It kind of had this one that was like dum 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 dum. But when the stabby chords came in, dun 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 dun, dun there's no bass line. So like I didn't really make that connection at first that I needed to have bass lines. So funny. Not sure why. But you'll see that happen again and again, and then finally I figured it out. So then the next one I'm gonna play that was, I believe, all samples, is called Electro Tech. So this is again gonna be just a sample of it. This is a little bit more. Oh no, that's how has original samples. Hang on. Okay, how about? Okay, this one is called Wisp for a Moment. And this is all samples. Every single thing is a sample. But still, my dad was in a dance company at the time. He was an amazing tap dancer. And the dance company did lots of other forms of dance, contemporary, ballet, jazz, all sorts of stuff. And they did this like futuristic show at the Paramount. And they totally used this track in it, which at the time, I don't think I quite appreciated how cool that was. And I still wonder, like, did they really think this was great? Or like were they just being nice? But anyway, it choreographed a whole dance to this. So this was what Wisp for a Moment sounded like. whatever. So those are all samples. Yep. Can't claim any of that as original samples. It was only my arrangement. But I have to say, I think the thing that makes that song maybe better than some of my others is that I think it's just arranged well. I seemed to be pretty tuned into the themes and creating some kind of cohesiveness and not just throwing things in just because they were cool. Like it seemed like a little bit more artfully crafted. So now I'm going to play some samples. Well, actually, I just have to play this one. It's very short. This is not trance, but it's kind of fun. I called it Alarm Clock. This is only using the effects samples that they had. Check this out. Or like Foley, I guess. It's like the Frail remix on Things Falling Apart, but happy and made by a 15-year-old. If you guys haven't heard that remix of the Frail, you should check it out. That's one of my favorites. Okay, so now I want to play some samples of the songs where I started to try to use the built-in sequencer in Techno eJay that was very limited. And it was my first time using a sequencer in general. So there could have been, I could probably should take some blame for that as well. But yeah, it just, the sounds were bad. You couldn't really do very good like envelope controlled filters of any kind, or they would like cut off at weird times. And there was no way to add like, yeah, it's just all like, what do you call it? The audio wasn't malleable. It was all destructive. Everything you did was destructive, right? So now this is one of my dad's favorites. And there are some samples in here that aren't mine, but you'll probably be able to tell the difference. So the I think I made like some of the drums by myself. I made the main synth lead by myself. This opening wonky you're about to hear it. That's not mine. But yeah, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but it is an important part of my history. So you may notice a decrease in quality now because I'm using the sequencer. Here we go. And then I build it back up. Okay. So that was a little sample of Alienistic starting to try to use the sequencer. And then here's another example. So it seemed like I mostly tried to use a sequencer with like kind of gnarly sounding bass lines. So here's something I called Silver, which I think is a little bit more like I maybe was starting to figure things out a little bit more. I was not afraid of dissonance like I thought I was. A lot of dissonance. Like that's in Phrygian. Da-da. Da-da. Da-da-da. I didn't make this drum groove, but I absolutely loved it. I could still listen to this groove forever. It's so good. Okay, so that was a sample of Silver, and one thing I noticed about that one is I definitely had a bass line going the whole time, and in fact I had a pretty clear chord progression that I was very aware of. So I think I was starting to also just get better, as a musician overall. This all happened so fast though, because I was just doing it all the time. This is all I did that I can remember. So after Techno eJay, my dad got me Acid Pro, and I can't remember exactly why. Maybe it had some more capabilities than Techno eJay, but I don't remember doing anything original in Acid. It was all loops again. So, but I wanted to play a couple sort of samples because now I had some other styles to pull from, some other styles of loops, and I made some pretty weird stuff that I don't even know what I would call it. Like there's so first I'm going to play two that I think are starting to head into the psytrance area. This is a sample of a song called Escaped Darting Mercury. And that is not a title I made up. It came from a game. It came from my music teacher, actually. We were playing a game. It was very creative, and he made up this phrase, Escaped Darting Mercury. So, yeah, all the jokes about acid, here they come. And like I said, I was straight edge. I did not do, well, mostly. Dad, I was pretty straight edge. I smoked pot like maybe 3 times in high school. And I told Mom, okay. I was really into Electric Universe at this point.
I know some things you don't know.
Oh, here's the bass. Now it keeps going. Okay. All right. So that's a sample of Escaped Darting Mercury. And then here's another. I think this one is super psytrancey. This, I don't even think I named it. I just called it Tech. But, oh, this one isn't psytrance. No. This one, you guys might have to help me with this. Is this jungle? Is this D&B? Is this breaks? Or both or all? Hang on. Just wait for the chorus or whatever. Drums. Yeah, the Prodigy is strong with this one. It sounds straight out of Fat of the Land, which I loved. I had that album. I loved it. But yeah, this was pretty cool. I think if I had more of these kinds of samples, I would have really gone this direction because I like slower grooves in general. Yeah. But yeah, this is not a finished idea. As you can tell, it's just sort of like, that was just sort of me like trying out an idea and never finishing it. But I thought I would play it because it was kind of cool. Here's one more sample from, I want to play you like a weird one, a weird sample, Inside the Mind of a Genius. I don't even know what on earth I would call this, but it's got, okay, I'm not going to say anything else. It's just bizarre, but it's really fun. Like fun is in, it's like kind of dorky. Yeah, like inside the mind of a genius, like almost cartoonish, you know? So this idea somehow evolved into 4 minutes, and I'm not sure how, because I don't think it goes through a whole lot of phases. But anyway, yeah, there was just so many more like interesting things in Acid. I don't even know what that is. And then the last example I'll play of my Acid, and I don't have a screenshot of Acid, by the way, so we're still looking at eJay, but this is a different program. Similar concept though. This is called Running Through My Nightmare, and I still to this day don't know what I would classify this as. It's not trance, I'm pretty sure. It's like something else. This remind me of, there's a little bit of a Depeche Mode harmony thing going on here. Depeche Mode It's one of the few bands that I know of that will put like minor chords back to back that don't usually go together. So like here I'm doing a minor 1 to a minor flat 7. That's really weird. But I was limited to just changing the pitch of the samples. So I took the minor chord and then I just moved it down a whole step. So it had to be a minor chord. But I liked it. It sounded creepy. Yeah. Interrupt says sample-based music can have a modal feel as the chord quality stays the same. Exactly. Well said. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that was fun. That was a cool age. And then so now we're moving into a stage where I was a better arranger and I got my hands on Ibiza eJay. And Ibiza eJay worked just like Techno eJay, but it just had, I would say, more anthemic and maybe better sample library to choose from. So it was around this time where I had Acid and Ibiza eJay where I found this online forum, and I don't know if any of you remember this. I already found somebody on my channel who was a part of it, at least 2 people, I think. It was called acidplanet.com, and it was like for folks that used, I mean, I think maybe anybody could, but it was like definitely sort of like came with the package of owning Acid Pro. Is you could upload your music for streaming and you could get feedback, comments, ratings, and you could rate other people. You couldn't buy it, couldn't download it, I'm pretty sure. But it was just a place to put your music and share it with the community. And that was the first and only time until I started this channel that I had like any kind of fan base. But I had a fan base. And people called me the trance goddess. And I was Ixie. And I just like, it was so fun, but I think I was too insecure. I didn't believe in myself enough, and I didn't know what to do with it, you know? So I went to college and stopped uploading, and I don't know, it just kind of ended, but it was a really lovely, positive experience to be able to share my music, and that was really the only time I had that kind of experience until now. So this feels a little bit full circle to me, especially playing all this music for you. So I'm going to play a couple samples of some tracks from Ibiza eJay, and then I'm going to play one in full, one that I like a lot still. And then we're going to move into the Reason era. So Ibiza eJay looked very similar, so I'm just going to leave this screenshot up. The sequencer, if I remember, was a little bit better. It still had a lot of limitations, but I was able to make some synth leads that sounded a little bit more like what I was trying to do, like more spacious, more effects, you know, more reverb. I had the option to add like an envelope controlled filter, but I couldn't control how fast it was or when it ended. So you'll hear that in one of the songs. But it was still a drag and drop thing with and then the sequencer. So I'm going to play this one. Now, I used to make up words for my songs because they didn't have lyrics and I just would like want to vibe, you know? So I made up this word, Anivator. I'm going to put it in the, it's almost like aviator, but it's not. I don't know what I was thinking, but Anivator is the name of this song. So I'll play a sample of this from Ibiza eJay. So this is all still 2001. So this is all within a span of a year. So yeah, again, I don't know if the samples were just kind of better or if like it was just more the style I was interested in. It was very melodic, you know, really harmonic, less, you know, effects driven. But I still, don't worry, there's going to be more psytrance coming. But I was, you know, I'm very harmony obsessed. So it was really fun to be able to create like, I don't know, almost like cinematic, you know, experiences with the trance music and have like really powerful melodies with like really moving chord progressions underneath. Almost like the way it would feel to have like strings, you know, over trance. So here's, I'm going to play a sample of a song called Everlasting Love. I can't play the whole thing. It is 7.5 minutes long. But I do want to give a quick little backstory on it. This one has more original sequences in it than the other ones in an eJay software. I wrote it right after 9/11. So this was how I processed 9/11 and the just sadness and confusion I felt. I was, you know, I was 15 and a half. No, 16. I can't remember how old I am. Dad? Maybe I was 16. So maybe this was all 16. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, it's 15 or 16. And I had never, something like that had never happened. And I just didn't know what to do with it. And I remember writing this song and I called it Everlasting Love because it was like, I think I was trying to like pour out the like care I felt for the families that suffered these losses and for the terror everyone was feeling and like trying to like wrap people up in love. But also the song doesn't sound like a hug. It's very militant in a way. It does sound kind of like intense and scary. And that was just me trying to like set the stage almost like cinematically. So I'll play a little bit of the 16. Yeah, you're right. Okay. I was 16. Are we back? Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Internet. We just upgraded too. Okay, maybe I won't play all of this. So I have had one more example. God, these are all so long. Is that just normal? Is trance all like 6 minutes long? Or is it just me? This one I think ended up being like my favorite from the Ibiza era. I called it Time in the Tunnel. This is also from 2001. We'll see. I might play all of it if people are into it. Otherwise, I'll play a sample and then I'll move on to Reason, which is where, everything's original. So, of course, I'm a little bit more excited about that. Okay. So that concludes the Techno Ibiza Acid Pro, Techno eJay Ibiza eJay Acid Pro era of samples and loops. And then I was just like, if I can remember correctly, I was just like dying to make my own stuff because I'd been writing stuff for so long. And so my dad got me first, I don't know, what'd you get me? It was some kind of MIDI controller. It was pretty basic, but then he got me this M Audio Ozone. I'm pretty sure it was called an Ozone, not the Oxygen, which came out later. And it was like this big, maybe 32 keys, 37 keys, something like that. And so then I was like back where I kind of started, like playing everything. The only thing I didn't play was I programmed the drums with the drum machine. So I'm going to now switch over to showing you Reason. So that's the DAW that we decided to go with. It was either that or Ableton. Pretty sure those were the options that my dad was considering. I was just kind of like, I don't know. Reason. Here we go. Okay. So here's Reason, and I was able to, it's kind of hard to see because this is all like dark burgundy, but if I double click on this, you can see, maybe, where is it? Where are the notes? Here they are. So these are like chords that I played through my MIDI controller. You can see all of the velocities down here, you know, how hard I hit it, very organic. And then if I wanted to quantize it, if I wanted to snap everything to a grid so that it was perfectly in rhythm, then I could, and I would sometimes, and other times I wouldn't, kind of depended what I was going for. Here is the drum machine. So let's see if I can, right, so I would have different different sounds, basically, you know, drum samples. And then I have the sequencer, and I could basically turn on and off 16th note steps and make these drum grooves. So that's a new pattern. Here's a new pattern. Right. So now I finally had like control, which was so fun. But of course, there's a learning curve. So what I'm going to play for you now is the first song that I ever made in Reason. It's not done. It's just more of an idea, I guess I should say. And I literally called it my first Reason song. So this is it. This is the first thing I ever made in Reason. And, you know, it's not great, but it's the beginning. So here it is. And that's that. Now, I do have, later on, I went back and I actually made a copy of it and did a little bit of something to it. I think I changed I didn't know how to make a delay. I wanted to have some kind of delay. And if you don't know what that means, the easiest way I would describe it is it's going to sound like an echo of sorts. You can kind of set how the tempo or the rhythm of it. But here's what I did. Oh, I hear a delay on my drum beat too. I don't know if that was intentional, but so now I have a delay and less reverb, I think, on everything because I would like oversaturate it. Right, so now there's so, you know, a little bit of an example of like, oh. Can you guys not see that? I'm so confused. What's happening? Okay, yeah, you can see that. All right. So what the second song I think I made was Sparkle. So I'm going to just play you a quick sample of that. I just called it Sparkle because it was sparkly. More like progressive trance, I feel like, yeah, like layer, 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 right? I never finished it, but yeah. So those are the kinds of things I did, and I didn't know how to mix at all. So yeah, and that's always been an issue for me, is that I just wanted to compose. I didn't really want to engineer the music too much. I mean, I would definitely get into like creating cool sounds, but only to serve the composition of the song, like not to engineer, like, I don't know. There was always a breakdown there. So I didn't even know what compression was, or I didn't really know how to use the EQ, and I didn't know not to use so much reverb. Not saying this is all like horrible or anything, but I never could get it to a place where it was like really release ready, you know? And I didn't know why. I didn't know why my songs didn't sound as good sonically as what I was hearing on the radio or on my CDs. I didn't know, and I didn't really think I had anybody to ask. Like, maybe I could have asked my friends on Acid Planet. I'm not sure. Dropped the ball there. They probably knew what mixing was. I'm sure they did. So now this is an interesting, I think, compositional idea. So what ended up happening is, after I made those first kind of initial ideas, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of understanding how the DAW is working. Now I want to like really make some stuff. I recreated Anivator from Ibiza eJay in Reason. So I took these other samples, right? And I figured them out, how to play them, and I recreated it. So I think that was a great idea I had, because I think it taught me a lot about the DAW, and it helped me break down whoever made these samples, like what they were doing that made these samples so good, right? So breaking it down, learning it by ear, figuring it out, and then finding what sound I wanted, what lead synth did I want to have, and having all that control. Now, again, it's going to pretty heavy on the reverb, so it's not well mixed, but I'm going to give you a little, just a reminder of what Anivator sounded like in the Ibiza program. Sorry. So then I pitched it up to A, because I didn't want to play an A flat, I think. Okay. So I tried to recreate, not note for note, but like, So yeah, I learned a lot making that, because in order to mimic a lot of the things I was hearing in the original with these other samples, I had to learn how to use filters. I had to learn how to use automation. I had to learn how to use a delay in a way that was more purposeful, and, you know, how to like I use a lot of like preset synth patches, and then I would like, change them to my liking. So I didn't exactly know what I was changing, but I would just twiddle knobs until I found something I liked. And yeah, and I had to learn like something about basic mixing, right? Like level setting. I don't think that that was particularly well set in terms of levels, but I always had so many layers that it didn't really stand a chance. Like it was just, there's just so much stuff in the same range on top of each other, and I didn't EQ anything. So it was hard to hear certain elements through all of that. But yeah, and of course it taught me how to use the drum machine. You know, I had to create like that whole, all those builds and everything. So that was a good exercise. And then, so now I'm going to play the song that I played at the very intro, if you were here, which is called Mystery in a Box. But I guess first I should play the original. So I did some remixes. I, hooked up with some folks on Acid Planet, some friends of mine, and they would do like remix contests and stuff. And I would also try to collaborate, but I ended up just remixing. I would just like take their idea and run with it, and then be like, I made a whole song. Here, here's our collaboration. I was not a good collaborator. And let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Original Mystery in a Box. Okay, so here's the original, and we all used Reason. These people, we all used Reason, so he was able to just send me the project file, so that was pretty cool. So here's the original. This is definitely like psychedelic trance, and it's all like Phrygian and evil sounding. Let me skip ahead a little bit. So those are some of the like sounds that I was working with. So the artist who did this, and I don't know how to find him now, was John Q. Publik. And that wasn't his real name, but yeah. So here is, I'm going to play this one straight through. This is 5 minutes of Ixie going nuts on psychedelic trance, Mystery in a Box, and I called it Mystery in a Box Ixitized. Here we go. Psytrance, man. Yeah, I don't think I ever wrote something quite as psytrancey as that. That was like the peak. There's one other thing that I did later, but yeah, that's like I was listening to Infected Mushroom, and I think you can hear that direct influence. I can't remember what the album was, but there was like some samples in one of the songs from like a cartoon, and yeah, it was like the psytranciest psytrance. That was fun. I enjoy that one. I think it's great. Now I thought I would play at least another part of a remix. So this is the only song from this whole era of my life that has vocals. They're not mine though. This is a remix with another friend who used Reason, Bob Vickery. I've tried to find him on the internet and I can't find him. But his song was called Light on the Surface, and it was not a trance song. He did write trance, but this one was like it was almost like more of a singer-songwriter kind of song with like piano and voice and like a guitar bass. And I think that was it. And so he gave it to a bunch of people to remix, and I went to work and it was a contest and I actually won, and he sent me from the UK, he mailed me a melodic trance compilation, which was like the best present ever. I was so happy. So yeah, we'll see. This is also 5.5 minutes long. They're so long. But one thing that is kind of cool about this, trying to work with vocals, having no idea what I'm doing, don't know about compression, trying to get the vocals to stand out and not get drowned out, which I didn't usually succeed in. Having piano, which I obviously played in my music, my trance music. That was also kind of new. And then I took a sampler, there's a sampler in Reason, and I loaded in a clarinet patch, and I made like a sequence out of the clarinet, and it sounds very synthy, but it's pretty cool. So at least I'll play until that part. But yeah, so this is called Light on the Surface, originally by Bob Vickery, Exotized.
There's a door that never closes to a room where a girl composes.
Oboe. Forgot about that. That was Light on the Surface, originally by Bob Vickery, remixed, Ixitized by Ixie. Andre, this whole thing is available for replay, so you and I will bookmark everything later. So yeah, that one felt like a big achievement for me. It felt very cinematic and orchestral, and definitely set me up for like what I did in college. And it would make my mom cry every time. And honestly, it would get to me too. Just some of the chord progressions I used would just like, you know. And the piano originally was just like a very simple, what was it? It was just like a, sorry. Da, da, This is a challenge. This is G flat. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, I remember like adding a bunch of stuff to it, kind of embellishing it. And I realized pretty much soon thereafter that I was good at original stuff, but I seemed to be even better at like taking someone's idea and like fleshing it out. So I really enjoyed remixing. And then I'm going to play you guys a few other like just a couple other like samples, and then I'm going to play another whole one that was sort of the pinnacle of my like, I feel like Armin van Buuren BT kind of inspired trance. So here's something that's a little bit different. This is called Rainforest II. I had a Rainforest 1 that I never finished. This song is hard for me to define what it is, again, with genres. I don't know. I don't think it's trance. I know it's not trance. It's something, some other dance genre. It's a lot slower. It's like 100. And I've thought about actually mixing it properly and releasing it just because it's so weird. I have all these like Japanese kind of sounding instruments and harmonies, and there's a double bass, like a stand-up bass that's doing the bass line. Anyway, I'm gonna play some of it for you, and I'm just curious, like, do you guys dig this? Like, I don't know. I like it because it's just such a mishmash. It's a little harsh on the high end, so maybe turn it down a little bit if you're sensitive to that. know. It's just weird. I like it. I like it. Someone said it could belong in a. Oh, sorry. Someone said it could belong in a game. That's a cool idea. Yeah. I've never done that before. I would love the idea of writing music for something. Like, not just for listening, but to accompany a film or a game or a dance or an art piece or just, you know, like something else, like a companion to another piece of art. Melody says dance/electronica would be the genre descriptor here. But yeah, I mean, that's double bass. It's kind of like jazzy, right? Jazzy. Japanese dance jazz. I don't know. Okay, so I have one more like full on. Well, I guess I have two more I can play for you that are trance, and then after that, it pretty much goes all to down tempo. So I'm gonna play "Don't Hurt Silver," and then I'm gonna play "Let Go." "Don't Hurt Silver" is I think I mentioned it. I think I was like a little bit inspired by BT. In fact, you know that song 9 a.m. Till I Come or something? I feel like I was inspired by that. I feel like there's some kind of synth line in here that's like similar. I don't know if I intentionally did that or if I just like, you know how things can happen when you're writing music. But this is definitely one of my favorites. I still like it a lot. If there's a market for this kind of trance, I would probably release this and feel happy with it, because I think, you know, it's a trance song, but it's phrased in 5 or something or 6, and yeah, I really love the harmonies. I really love the chord progression and everything. I think it's a good song. So, ATB? Oh, okay. ATB. All right, here's "Don't Hurt Silver." I don't remember. I think I dreamt that. So I opened up Don't Hurt Silver. This is the original file, I believe. So it might sound a little different if I play from here because there's absolutely nothing else done to it in like post, but let's see what happens. So this is the main synth. I don't have my MIDI keyboard hooked up right now, but we can look at this really quick. So, ooh. So yeah, this was all played by hand, and then I'm sure it quantized it because it sounds very exact. And there's definitely some kind of filter here. So you can see I'm like opening something up. Let's see if we can find that. Here, right here. I'm pushing up. It just says filter BP12. What is that? Guys, what is BP? See, I didn't know. I just was like, this makes it sound the way I want. I don't know what it's called. So now I'm kind of soloing things so you can see how it was sort of constructed. Here's a reverse cymbal. Okay, now here's the main synth, kind of. That sounds like a square wave, doesn't it? Oh, sine and square. I loved that. Sigh. Here's our bass line. Okay, now where are the jun 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 jun. I thought there was a piano. I'm lost in my own song. Whoosh. Very noisy synth. Okay. Gotta bring the beat back. There's a lot of tracks here. Love these chords. Sorry. Oh yeah, I faded out the drum beat there. An older version. It's so great to have these files still. I'm so happy. Thanks for joining, Father. Melody says it's interesting. I've automated the pitch bend range on a bunch of these instruments. Yeah, I don't know. I must have assigned it to do something else. And interrupt saying bandpass. Oh, BP, bandpass filter. Okay. I still don't. I'm guessing that means that it bypasses certain frequency bands and then slowly opens them up. 12-pole bandpass filter. 12 poles? Bye, everybody. That's leaving now. We'll say goodbye in a second. So that is a general sense of the trance that I wrote when I was 15 and 16 years old. I have a lot more of it, and I also have I'll play one out like as an outro, another one. But I have a ton of down tempo, so stuff that just moved away from that genre. Maybe I'll put an example. I mean, Siberia is an example of like some of the stuff I was writing after that. And then all the classical stuff. So I don't know if you enjoyed this, if this was interesting or helpful to you to see like my progression. We can do another one where I kind of keep going down the line. I have a ton of like, maybe not a ton, 5 probably tracks, recordings of my music performed live. And it's all weird and dissonant and not what you'd expect from me, but something you might expect from Trent. I was probably inspired by Trent, honestly. I was like, I'm trying to like push my boundaries here. And I was like, I just all the tritones. So yeah, I could share some of that with you guys. So the last thing I'm going to play, I'm going to like say goodbye and then I'll just play a track, is called Let Go. And I originally wrote this, I called it Gay Bar because I was watching a TV show called Queer as Folk. And there's this like epic club that probably doesn't exist in real life in anywhere, but it was like the most perfect dance club ever. It was a safe haven for gay people. And the music was, so very unique. And I thought, what if I wrote something that could go in that club, that could be in that TV show? So that's what this is. And so it's like a little cheesy for me, like, but, because it's more like mainstream sounding. But at the same time, I love it. And it somehow ended up being a really good track, even though, it was started out almost like an experiment. So I'll play that. It's called Let Go / Gay Bar. Thanks so much for coming. That was pretty fun. A little vulnerable, but I enjoyed it, and I hope it was interesting and useful, fun for you too. So here's Let Go. So just let go. Let go.